From our hurricane headquarters with real-time analysis from some of the nation's top meteorologists, this is Tracking the Tropics, powered by Bose Electric.
Tropical storm Helene organizing with a narrowing path that takes it straight to the state of Florida in the coming days, potentially as a major hurricane. We have the latest model runs, the latest information that you need to know, and a team of meteorologists ready to answer your questions here in your hurricane headquarters on Tracking the Tropics. Hello there to you folks. Welcome to our first Helene live stream on Tracking the Tropics with our panel of meteorologists ready to answer questions in our live Q&A coming up here in just a few moments. You can ask a question to any of the meteorologists on your screen using our hashtag system. Hashtag Hey Rebecca, Amanda, Alex, for meteorologist Rebecca Barry and Amanda Holly here at WFLA in Tampa, part of the Max Fender 8 weather team, the co-hosts, of course, of Tracking the Tropics. And our featured meteorologist today, joining us from Birmingham, Alabama, CBS 42, our next star sister station, Alex Puckett. You can use hashtag Hey Alex to ask Alex a question here as well. We have the latest model runs. The 11 o'clock update came in, and we now officially have Tropical Storm Helene. I want to get through all the graphics and show everybody all of these model runs. So for that, we're going to send it over to meteorologist Rebecca Barry. And Rebecca, Helene is here, and we have a busy few days ahead, don't we?
Indeed. Now, the only really good news is Helene's expected to move very quickly. So it's going to be a flyby as it goes up through the Gulf while it's rapidly intensifying. So fast forward motion is an important part of an important component in the forecast here. And so as of that 11 a.m. update, I was watching Amanda Holly on the midday show. The hurricane hunters went and flew through it and found that closed center of circulation, allowing it to become Tropical Storm Helene. If you remember yesterday, the hurricane hunters found the wind speeds, but not that closed circulation. And so it is now a tropical storm. It's moving over some of the warmest waters we have. It's expected to intensify into a Category 1 hurricane by tomorrow morning and then continue to intensify rapidly into a Category 3 hurricane as it passes just to the west of Tampa Bay and making a big impact on the Big Bend area. Of course, the track is for the center of the storm, meaning that the margin of error could mean the center of the storm tracks a lot closer to Tampa Bay or a lot further away from Tampa Bay. And this is such a compact storm that's going to make a big difference, just a matter of miles, as to who gets hurricane force winds and who just has kind of a rainy, blustery day. The good news is the forecast models continue to be in good agreement. Now, yesterday we talked about how we needed one good model run once the actual center formed to have an even higher confidence in that forecast. So that'll be this afternoon or this evening's model run, depending on how it's lining up, where those models get that fixed center position, and they're all reading off of that same center position. So we could potentially get a little bit more confidence in this forecast, which I would like to see. Everyone in the Tampa Bay area would like to see a further westerly shift. We saw an infinitesimal westerly shift with that 11 a.m. track. It did remove most of the Bay area from the official cone, but keeping in mind, all of the effects are felt well outside the cone in most cases. And so this means that the dirty side of the storm will be from Perry over to Crystal River. And so especially areas like the Big Bend will see a very, very high storm surge. We're not seeing much differentiation between the GFS and the Euro. The GFS is a little stronger and a little faster, making impact a little faster as well, but neither making a big difference in terms of landfall locations between the two major forecast models there. All of them keeping that fast forward motion even upon landfall, which means we won't see those flooding rains over inland areas. And so the question has been, can it turn too early, and why is it going to make this path? Why are all the forecast models so confident in this path? So we have some influencing steering currents here. The Bermuda high, of course, that are going clockwise around a high pressure system, that's helping steer it up. And this the jet stream lifting up a little bit of a trough lifting up a little bit is what allows and steers this system into the Big Bend area. And so the big question mark is, does it lift out perfectly timed? If it does stay lower, it would cause it to turn in a little bit earlier. I don't think we're going to have to worry about friction from outermost rain bands because it is such a compact storm. And so a lot of storms like Charlie was also a compact storm, but it was a lot closer to the land. And also like Ian, they talked about how they turned in a little early. But the outermost rain bands are way out. Look how compact the storm is. Well, the first outermost rain bands impact our area tomorrow night. You get a big break in the rain, but where we would would look for friction to potentially influence would be the rain bands that are much, much closer to the center. I don't think these rain bands are going to encounter enough friction from the land to see any effect from that. I'm not that worried about it because it is such an incredibly compact storm. And so as long as it passes just to the west of us, we won't see the hurricane force winds. They're all out over the open Gulf with this forecast model if this were to ring true. But we would see these bands of rain, possible tornadoes, gusty winds as well. Look how tight the storm is upon landfall as it's still continuing to intensify into a Category 3 hurricane at this point. And so the dirty side of the storm is going to be just to the south and to the east of the eye. That's where the worst of the winds are going to be. That's where the worst of the damage is going to be. That's where the worst of the storm surge is going to be as well. We have to worry about surge in the Tampa Bay area after the storm passes because this is when the winds shift and we start to see that onshore flow driving a higher volume of water into Tampa Bay, into our estuaries, into our rivers, and up along our coastline. So the good news is it's a fast-moving storm, and so the winds get a lot lighter Thursday night into Friday morning, and they come down all day long on Friday as well. And so the reason that we're worried about intensification is look at this extreme available ocean energy. So that's that warm sea surface temperatures. It even makes it over the loop current. So it stays over the warmest waters for as long as possible before barreling towards the panhandle of Florida and the Big Bend area. And so the storm surge numbers are alarming. We're talking 10 to 15 feet closer to landfall, 9 to 10 feet for Hernando and Pasco, 6 to 10 feet for Hernando and Pasco, 5 to 8 feet for Pinellas, as well as Tampa Bay down into Sarasota and Manatee counties. They do lower that to 4 to 7 feet for Sarasota County there. So the storm surge numbers are very, very high. The wind gusts are highest along the coastline. And so when we're taking a look at your wind gust forecast, we have some outermost rain bands pushing through, but the winds start to pick up in our southern counties Thursday morning, and then they start to spread. Once we get into the orange, those are 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts, and that's by the middle of the day on Thursday. And that continues to spread from the south to the north, and we even see on the edge here near Northport, along the coastline of Sarasota County there, we get into that 50, 60 mile per hour range, and that grows across Sarasota County, while the 40 to 50 mile per hour range grows across Pasco, Pinellas, as well as Hillsborough County. We start to get a little bit more of that 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gust range in Pinellas County, as well as in South Tampa, down near the MacDill Air Force Base, Manatee and Sarasota counties. And if you look very carefully on the edge here, now we're seeing that red, which is 60 to 70 mile per hour, 75 mile per hour wind gusts. And so once the eye passes us, that's when the winds shift and become onshore. So that's Thursday evening. So we could see some storm surge flooding and some flooding from onshore winds overnight Thursday night into Friday morning. That's when the worst of the winds are starting to pick up in Citrus County there, and you can see the catastrophic winds to well to the north of that, closer to landfall. But the winds will be much lighter on Friday, but they still continue that onshore motion, which will make for higher than normal high tides and potential high tide flooding. And on this forecast model, it's showing you where those 100 mile per hour winds are and how far they stay away from the Tampa Bay area. It's really hard for those hurricane force winds to make it onshore this far out with this compact of a storm, but right along our coastline could see those 75 mile per hour wind gusts. But the 100 mile per hour and the 90 mile per hour wind gusts in black and white here, they're going to be anywhere from basically from Cedar Key northward to Tallahassee upwards and on the edge of Panama City as well. So that's part of what's driving the storm surge. The low pressure is part of what's driving the storm surge. The wind gusts are starting to pick up on Wednesday night into Thursday morning. We could see some bridge closures as early as Thursday morning, that 40 mile per hour threshold. Now these are gusts, so it would need to be sustained, but we're starting to see gusts that could close some of the bridges Thursday morning into Thursday afternoon. It will be most certainly by Thursday afternoon looking at some potential bridge closures as we get these really gusty winds along the coastline. Not as much gusty winds over inland areas. The winds are much, much more favorable for Polk County, Highlands County, Hardee, and DeSoto, and things get calmer quickly over the weekend as well. And so I'm not necessarily worried about rainfall with this one because it's such a fast mover, and it looks like the heaviest of the rainfall will be much inland of us, much north of us and inland of us. That's where the heaviest of the rainfall is. So really just the storm surge and those gusty winds are what I'm most worried about, other than a shift in the track, of course. That's the terrifying element, is if it were to shift further east.
Yeah, we're all paying attention to whether it's going to shift west, shift east, now that it, of course, getting its act together. I want to bring in Alex here in just a moment. He's joining us from Birmingham. But first, Amanda's been in since what? Let me guess. 1:30, 2 o'clock this
I got
morning?
in about 3 this morning.
All right, so you got in about
terrible.
3 o'clock this morning. So you've been tracking this all morning long. What are some of your observations, Amanda?
Yeah, I think, Rebecca kind of reiterated all of the hazards that we are going to see, especially Thursday and into Thursday night. So all the tropical hazards are at play for our area. So we're talking about tropical rains, but we're not talking about record rainfall here. I know we are, still coming off the heels of Debbie just over a month ago, where we did have record amounts of rain in portions of Sarasota and Manatee and saw significant flooding. So I'm sure a lot of folks down there wondering if that's possible. Again, I don't think we're going to see 18 inches of rain along the coast, but I do think 4 to 8 inches of rain is possible over that 24-hour period, something that we should be able to handle. The grounds are saturated. There are going to be some ponding on the roads with the flooding and the tropical rains that come through, but I don't think that we are looking at the same flooding event that we had with Debbie in terms of the rainfall. But Rebecca did talk about the coastal flooding, right? So she showed this map a couple of times, and these are high numbers. These are higher numbers than we've seen with the storms in recent years. This is worst case scenario. This does include the height of the high tides at the time. This would be Thursday night and into Friday morning with some of those high tides. Over the next 24 hours, we're going to be narrowing down some of these high tide times for you guys. So look for that coming in on our Wednesday. But really, the strongest winds are going to be in the Panhandle where this comes ashore. If the forecast continues to stay on track like it has, strongest winds are going to be up there. The highest storm surge is going to be up there. We're going to experience tropical storm force winds, tropical storm conditions across the Tampa Bay area. Immediate coastline, you guys know that you will see some slightly stronger gusts, but with this 11 a.m. track, it did shift a little bit farther to the west. That would keep some of those stronger winds offshore. Better news. But I think we're looking at a coastal flooding event here, and I think that we are looking at tropical storm conditions on Thursday again, but worse impacts, especially for the Panhandle. We really haven't touched on the Panhandle just yet.
Yeah, we'll be talking about even beyond the Panhandle. We have questions in the queue for other states, even Georgia, but we're really honed in right now on, of course, the path of this storm and the impacts, of course, in the state of Florida. We're going to get to Alex here in just a second. Quick reminder, we're about to, in maybe 60 seconds or so, about to start taking your questions. We have a ton of questions in the queue. We're going to get through as many of them as possible. So if you want to start punching in your hashtag, hey, Rebecca, Amanda, JB, Alex, questions, if you use our hashtag system, they will get added to the queue. We are going to go through a lot of these in the coming minutes. But Alex, let's bring you in here. You're joining us from Birmingham, Alabama, our sister station. What stands out to you about the latest models with Helene?
Well, keeping an eye on that potential for rapid intensification, and we now have a tropical storm. This has been a little slow to develop, in part because it's been experiencing some southwesterly shear due to an upper level low. That seems to be backing off now, though, and so we do expect intensification to continue over the next 24 hours. Models seem fairly aggressive on pretty rapid intensification here, just over a 24-hour stretch as it moves through the Northwest Caribbean and starts to make its way into the Gulf. But you can see that jump there on the forecast track from the Hurricane Center going from 90 to 115 miles an hour Wednesday night to Thursday morning. So the potential there for this thing to be on a rapid intensification trend as it makes its way towards the Big Bend of Florida. And do want to say a silver lining that you guys have noted is it is fast moving. A good chunk of the Florida Peninsula, including spots from Tampa, Orlando, and points north, are very saturated. The stream flows are pretty high. So the fact that this is moving quickly hopefully helps mitigate the flood risk for the state of Florida. But this could cause some significant flooding issues further north into Georgia, especially up into the Appalachian Mountains. There could be some problems from this well after landfall as it moves inland.
Speed, obviously, a significant factor. And we've got our first question that's coming in here about size. We're going to start now our meteorologist Q&A. Of course, this is what takes us beyond broadcast television. We can answer questions from the chat as long as you use one of our hashtags. One of those hashtags, if you use them with your comment, it basically means that you want us to spotlight your name and your comment on screen. So if you use a hashtag, folks, for any of our names, hey, JB, Rebecca, Amanda, Alex, we'll be able to feature your comment on screen like this starting now. Becca wants to know, hashtag Becca to Rebecca, how big is the storm, as in width? Who will feel this storm? Are we talking about a compact storm, a big storm? What are we talking about here?
We are not talking about a big storm in terms of width. We are talking about Tropical storm force winds, Amanda has it popped up right there. So that's winds above 39 miles per hour. You can see that wind field's pretty big. And as she plays this graphic out, you start to sort of see the orange behind it. That's the severe winds over 60 miles per hour. But the hurricane force winds, that's a wind field not even big enough for us to really see behind the icon. And so we'll get some tropical storm force winds between 39 and 59 miles per hour. But if this track holds, may not see severe winds along our coastline of 60 miles per hour because it's such a compact storm. And we're certainly not likely to see hurricane force winds of 74 miles per hour or above because it is such a compact wind field. Citrus County has the best chance of seeing some severe winds, that northwestern corner there, kind of on the edge of that wind field. But this is not a wide storm in any shape or form. It's very, very compact. And that's one of the reasons it's probably able to undergo such a rapid intensification. It doesn't have much time over the warm waters there and away from the shear, but it makes the most of its time and with that compact wind field. And so we'll see very compact devastation once it makes landfall.
Right. So compact area of those strongest winds. The tropical storm force winds, they usually extend out 150 miles from the center. And I think that we will see those tropical storm force winds. But with this latest shift, it does keep most of the strongest winds off the Tampa Bay coastline. But we are going to see a small area in the panhandle, with the major hurricane force winds.
We are now in the live Q&A section of the program. I want to remind everybody that we've got on WFLA.com a ton of resources. You can also go to trackingthetropics.tv. We have things like school closures, local governments calling state of emergencies, just basically closures in the public sector. We've also got our real-time wobble tracker there that we'll try to spotlight at some point later on in this stream. We're here to answer as many questions as we have, and we've got a lot coming in now from Sarasota. Vanessa, #HeyAmanda. How bad do you think it'll get for Sarasota by I-75, specifically asking about the winds? And we're gonna do a 2-for-1 here, Amanda, coming your way, and Rebecca as well. Sierra wants to know in the comment section, #HeyRebecca, Sarasota County issued an evacuation for Zone A for tomorrow morning. Should we expect the same in Hillsborough? So we've got Sarasota, Hillsborough questions coming in, you guys.
Yeah, so I'll start with, I have the winds pulled up here. So what kind of those wind speeds we'll take a closer look. I want to just kind of zoom in on our coastal counties, because coastal county, Sarasota, Manatee, we are going to see those strongest winds. And you can see there's some reds showing up here. That's upwards of 60, 70 mile per hour, but these are wind gusts. So they're brief bursts. And I think this is really going to be confined to the immediate coastline. If you're at I-75 in Sarasota County, we could see 1 or 2 gusts in that 50 to 60 mile per hour range. But I want you to remember, we sometimes see that in, an afternoon thunderstorm. If we see shifts closer to us in the track, though, these strengths could go up a little bit. But note the timing. This is Thursday evening, seeing some of those stronger gusts. This is a similar forecast for Hillsborough and Pinellas County. We're looking at the strongest wind gusts right along the immediate coastline. And then you can see the graphic there where it says an onshore wind. As soon as, and Rebecca noted this earlier, as soon as the center of the storm passes north of your location, that wind's going to shift onshore. That's when we're looking at that strongest push of water. And then evacuations, Rebecca and I were also talking about this just a little bit ago. We've seen evacuations with the storms in the past. I do think that we could see the same, if not slightly higher water levels with this storm as the forecast current thinking. So are evacuations possible in Hillsborough County? Yes.
Yeah, especially Zone A.
Yes.
Yeah, a list of evacuations, folks, as far as the zones. Make sure you know what zone you're in. And it's all on WFLA.com. And we're also going to point you in the right direction with press conferences, a lot of different advisories coming out from your local state government, your county government. So be on the lookout. It's all on WFLA.com and trackingthetropics.tv. Guys, can we bring up the GFS and the Euro? I want to explain this to our audience for those who are unfamiliar. And Alex, we're coming your way with this next question. The GFS, we'll go full screen here if we can. The GFS is the American model, right? And the Euro, of course, is the European model. The Euro model has gained a reputation in years past for being the really reliable model, which is kind of ironic because it's, of course, coming from Europe. You would think that the American model, the GFS, would be the go-to social media model, but the Euro has developed such a loyal following in years past So this question comes in, Stefan, from Stefan to Alex. Alex, they want to know what's most reliable or more reliable in the models, the GFS or the Euro, in your opinion?
It just depends on the day. It depends on the storm. These models, sometimes one of them's operating better than the other. I would say with this particular event, there's not a huge difference between the two. The GFS a little bit faster and a little bit stronger, but both of them have landfall in a similar spot. I would tend to say that I would lean higher with the intensification, closer to the GFS, maybe with the speed and the intensity this time around, just because of how warm the water is, how favorable the environment is for intensification as this moves through the loop current and into the Gulf.
Let's get to the next question, and it comes. Oh, okay, you guys ready for the money question?
Yeah.
This is the money question.
Okay.
All right. This is the question everybody wants to know.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And Daisy is asking the question that's on everyone's minds because we see more model consensus, right?
Mm-hmm.
But #Hey Amanda, #KJB. You explain this now, Rebecca, in with talking about the steering currents, right? There's science behind why the tracks have such consensus, and I'm glad that Amanda is bringing up the spaghetti models here. Look at the consensus that we have with these spaghetti models. That means that all of these models have tremendous agreement when it comes to predicting where exactly Helene is going to go. But we have seen in the past hooks.
Yep.
So back to the question here from Daisy, is there any chance that this can shift to the east?
So, Rebecca, you explained this really well just a few minutes ago. We've got two steering currents at play. We've got the jet stream that's diving down to the south, and we've got this steering area of high pressure. Right now, that high pressure is keeping Helene down in the Caribbean. That's why it's only moving northwest, not necessarily due north. Over the next 24 hours, that high pressure backs off, and we see the jet stream dive down. So it's essentially, I'm going to try and push this up just a little bit so that we can see the low and how you can actually see it. So the jet stream, the low is where Helene will be. The jet stream's kind of picking up Helene and shoving it off to the north. But meanwhile, the high pressure is sitting right there just off to the east, and it's blocking it from going farther east. So it's basically being sandwiched in between these two systems. The reason that we could still see shifts is because these two systems, they're still developing. We're still seeing the jet stream diving down to the south, and there's still a little nuance in between the GFS and the Euro and some of those tropical models on how far south the jet stream dives, how far east does the high pressure back off. So we're talking about just a few miles east or west can make a big difference in who sees those biggest impacts. Right now, I think for the Tampa Bay area, if that's where you're watching from, at this point, it's going to be narrowing down what impacts we're going to be feeling, because either way, we're going to be feeling impacts. If it gets a little bit closer, obviously our impacts will get a little bit worse. At the moment, though, we are looking at basically these models in really good agreement. They have been for days, which, Rebecca, I think you'd agree with me. We were talking about it earlier. It's kind of surprising how well in agreement these models have been for a system that just formed today.
Yes. And so I was really nervous for the center formation because I thought it would bring a lot of changes. And so I'm still kind of interested to see how the afternoon model runs do now that all of the models have a center to fixate on. But really, this is a forecasting success story so far. All of the forecast models, the Euro was the last to get on board.
I was going to say, back to the GFS versus the Euro question, with this storm, the Europeans been playing catch up from the beginning for, almost a week.
I never thought I'd ever hear you say those words.
I know.
The Euro playing catch up.
I have a soft spot for the GFS. I don't know why.
I do too.
It's not always right.
Years, though.
But yes, in the last couple years, not every storm, but it's done really well. And I'm happy to see it's doing better, right? It's not always going to be right. The Europeans not always going to be right. But with this particular storm, the Europeans been playing catch up. It didn't even want to develop this storm for a week now. It obviously does. Both of the systems do. Both of the models do. But at the moment, the GFS has been kind of, the leading model on this storm, I would say.
We are weather nerds in here because we develop like relationships, borderline friendships with these models right?
Yeah.
I mean, we sometimes
We look at them a lot.
Sometimes
my boy.
they're reliable, sometimes they're not. It
Yeah.
really depends. We've got. I really love this next question that's coming in from Liz, and we have, when I say maybe dozens or even hundreds of questions in the queue, we've got a ton, but this is a great one. Liz, hashtag Hey Amanda, how far inland is considered to be immediate coastline? Because we keep talking about how this is going to be more of a severe weather event for our coastline on the Gulf Coast side of Florida. But immediate coastline is, how do you guys define that exactly?
I like to define immediate coastline as anything in between the beaches and the I-75 corridor. Not necessarily for our nature coast counties, but Pinellas, Hillsborough, Sarasota, Manatee, anything in between the coastline and I-75. Nature coast, I would say anything within 10 miles.
That's fascinating to me because I didn't, you're saying from the beach all the way to the interstate is to you immediate coastline.
Yeah, with impacts like this. Yeah.
Okay. Because I think that most people, or maybe I don't know if I'm in the minority or the majority here, but would say, okay, immediate coastline is, are you within, are you within a football field of the beach? Pretty much would define immediate coastline that way.
And either way, I mean, that's, a beach and a football field. That's probably where some of those strongest winds will be, but just can't rule out with error.
And I think that part of the reason our definition of immediate coastline is so broad is because we're talking so much about water.
Yes.
And the way that the bay is shaped and the way our rivers are shaped and those onshore winds, that we're talking about that storm surge flooding and the potential for high water inundation with the onshore winds afterwards as well.
Yeah, so I guess when you put it that way, there are some nuances with immediate coastline, because when we're talking about storm surge, we're not quite talking to I-75, but winds, yes.
Yeah.
We got Alex back here. Alex, I want to let you know, we have a lot of questions in the queue. We know that you have your job at CBS 42 in Birmingham, so if you need to dip out for any reason, that's what live streaming is all about. We will continue on with the stream, but you let us know. Checking in on you. How you doing over there? Oh,
We're sort of in between hits here, and we've got a noon show going on right now, so we're letting folks know we got potential for impacts here in central Alabama that we're keeping an eye on. So we're trying to keep folks up to date here. The potential for not the same kind of impacts in Florida, but some rain and some wind here in central Alabama from the left side of this system.
Considering that you're in a show, do you have to depart?
I'm going to have to say goodbye, but thank you guys for having me.
Oh,
Thanks for joining.
It's always a pleasure. Alex Puckett, everybody give him a follow on social media, joining us from our sister station, CBS 42 in Birmingham, Alabama. Thanks a lot, Alex. We'll see you soon. Back here on the program, we were joking about this earlier, how people will come up to you when you're not on camera, right? Amanda Holly in real life, like not when she's standing in front of a green screen, and people will come up to her and be like, Amanda, come on, tell us what you really think of the storm. Like what do you just beyond the science?
I was going to say that. What's your gut?
What is your gut on this one? Rochelle wants to know, what is your gut on this one, you guys? So, I mean, my gut is, it's a Hey JB comment, but let me get your gut response real quick. You guys tell it like it is.
Yeah.
So
we do. What we say here is what I literally 4 minutes before the midday show, I was talking to my father-in-law. He called me, asking me what's the latest. He lives on the water, and he was, I told him to pull the boats out. The boats are on the lifts. I said, it's time to pull the boats out, and guess what? That's what he's doing today. So,
yep. I worded it yesterday. I don't think I'm going to make my hair appointment on Monday morning, but I'm not putting my on Thursday morning, but I'm not putting my storm shutters up. And so I think that's the kind of gauge, is that we are going to see some water damage. I think we will see some wind damage, but I think it'll be more coastal than anything. I think we're going to thread the needle, and it's going to pass just west enough of us that we're not going to see the significant impact that the Big Bend will.
Yeah, unless we start to see any of those shifts back to the east. But at the moment, as it stands, I agree. I think that we are going to see a tropical-like day on Thursday. We are going to see the higher than normal tides. Now, for those folks watching us in the Panhandle, especially Panama City Beach, in between Panama City Beach and northern Citrus County, you guys might want to think about putting those storm shutters up today.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Start wrapping up up those preparations. Now, you guys have a little bit longer of a time, but those conditions will be deteriorating for you guys. Again, Panama City, Panhandle, off to just north of Crystal River. You guys are going to see the brunt of the storm. Storm shutters need to be up. You need to be prepping for the possibility of 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. We are, more so focusing on the Tampa Bay area, for those with the gut feeling that we were just talking about.
Yes. Excellent point.
The three of us we're friends. We're always in here together talking weather and non-weather. I'm just curious. Does it annoy you when someone comes in and says, "What's your gut?"
Not really.
No.
Because I'm going to say the same answer that I've said, already. So it's not like I got to sit there and be like, this is what I think.
I only get annoyed when I am on television and and I'm getting 15 personalized text message.
Like your phone's
requests.
blowing up.
I'm like, just turn on the television.
Yeah.
I can't respond to everybody. Turn on the television.
Just respond with a link to our live stream.
Yes.
Kaylin wants to know, hey, JB, since Newport Richey is out of the cone, what does that mean? I'm just nervous and know we're still going to get something. And Kaylin's right. I mean, you might be out of the cone, but that doesn't mean you're not going to feel impacts from Helene.
Yeah, I think Newport Richey, you have that very elaborate canal system there. I think you have a really good chance to see much, much higher than normal levels of water in those canals if you're near one of those. I think certain roads, your typical roads that always get flooded, will probably be impassable from high water in Newport Richey. We talk a lot about the frequent flyers as far as flooding goes, and I think all of those are going to be going off on Thursday.
Yeah.
And even into Friday. I think this is one of those days, Thursday, where the sun sets on Thursday and we're like, ooh, that wasn't terrible. But then the water keeps coming up overnight, Thursday night into Friday morning.
Yeah. And just because, I think the National Hurricane Center noted it in their discussion that the impacts are going to be far reaching outside of the cone. I talked about it at length on midday that, just because our coastline isn't in the cone anymore, that's great. But the cone only means that's where the center of the storm could be. The impacts are going to be far reaching. We're going to be on that eastern side. So everything that you just talked about, certainly still going to be felt.
Got a lot of questions coming in about Tampa, of course. And look, a lot of that is going to be because that's one of the most populated cities in the state of Florida. The Big Bend isn't as populous as, let's say, the Tampa Bay area. Kira wants to know how you're feeling about Tampa. Dina wants to know, hey, JB, what are the chances of this hitting the Tampa Bay area? And certainly there will be impacts in the Tampa Bay area, which really is a region of the west side, the Gulf Coast side of Florida. But as far as Tampa impacts directly, you guys, look, we're going to feel it.
Yeah, I think we're going to feel it. I think there will be some power outages. I think there will be impassable roads in South Tampa, especially. But I mean, we do that on a Tuesday during a thunderstorm sometimes.
Right.
I think Bayshore Boulevard's going to flood. I think that West Shore Boulevard's going to flood. I think it's going to be a rough Thursday, but I don't think it's anything like what it could be if that storm were to turn.
Yeah. So the graphic that's kind of up right now, I don't know, JB, if you can go full screen. I updated this prior to getting the 11 a.m. track update. So this is kind of reasonable worst case scenario for our area if the storm were to kind of make landfall right in that, that point of the Big Bend.
Okay, so we could even maybe, if we continue to see confidence in the forecast, we could probably bring this down.
I would
10%.
Like to lower these numbers if the latest suite of models that come in stay on the forecast. We'll probably lower these numbers.
Okay, so you're thinking like 4 to 7 for storm surge?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Let's get to YouTube. Hi YouTube. We're gonna take some questions from YouTube as well. We're live on a couple different social media platforms as well. YouTube audience, we're gonna be doing a lot more streaming on YouTube Live, Facebook Live. We've been doing streams, of course, over the last several days, even into last week. So if you're joining us, welcome into the Stream Center, your hurricane headquarters for Tracking the Tropics with Rebecca Barry, Amanda Holly, the meteorologists on our panel. We had Alex Puckett on earlier. I'm JB Buno. I'm the one fielding the questions with our hashtag system. They are the ones who are answering the questions that are coming in. And sometimes it's not even just questions. Sometimes we just get, some love, like from Marvin, hashtag Hey Rebecca, saying miss you. In Jacksonville, of course, Rebecca Barry, formerly of weather team in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I did 15 years in Jacksonville. I love my Jacksonville people. I was just there this weekend.
You're always going back. You really.
My husband fishes there, so he's literally on the St. Johns River catching giant bull redfish right now. So
fishing popular in Florida, no doubt, and you know it's also popular in Florida. Ooh. Halloween Horror Nights,
theme parks in general.
Yeah. Marvin wants to know as well. You got tickets for Thursday night. Look, just plans in general. In the coming days, it doesn't look good.
No, so many things just start closing on Thursday. Even things that could stay open don't feel like they're going to do a great business because people are kind of hunkered down. Ooh, it's the first hunkered down of the season. Oh. And so I don't think Halloween Horror Nights on Thursday is going to happen. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that, those companies, right? The theme parks, the airport workers, they have to think about their employees as well and putting them out in those kind of conditions. And then they think about the people that are coming to those theme parks and driving in those conditions and how risky is it. But yeah, bottom line is business. And if they're not going to have a lot of business, is it worth them staying open? Again, I'm getting a lot of question about flights. I don't think that we're going to see a ton of flights in and out on Thursday, especially in Tampa.
Orlando. To Josh Benson's parents who are supposed to land on Thursday.
I don't know what it is. Thursday. There's a lot of people flying into the Tampa area on Thursday. It's not a great day.
Guys, do we have that one graphic that shows the number of storms that have hit Florida in recent years with all the different tracks? Can we pull that up? Florida's been hit with, look, Florida quite literally sticks out like a sore thumb in the ocean. So it's going to get hit with hurricanes, just the way that the map works, the way that geography works. Yeah, more of a downward thumb, a thumbs down than a thumbs
down
up.
to hurricanes.
There you go. Check this. This is a great graphic, and thank you to Amanda and the morning team for putting this together.
Got to give a shout out to Lee Span. She made this one in between our hits.
Look at all of the different paths and some similarities here. Michael, Debbie, Adalia, Ian, Irma. That brings up the next question here from Bessie. Says, "Hey JB, doesn't this remind you of Ian?" So if we bring up this graphic, we'll look here at Ian. Ian is the tan, I guess that's an aqua.
Yeah.
Let's say the aqua line. And yes and no. Ian and Helene look to be similar in that they're coming from a similar point of origin. But Ian really had this cut across the state and really hitting our neighbors to the south more in Fort Myers and Port Charlotte.
We were missing that high pressure to the east of us. That's how Ian made that turn. That high pressure should theoretically block Helene from taking a similar path.
This looks more like Adalia than it does Ian.
And really Michael.
Yes. Michael wasn't as compact.
Right.
And so that's interesting. And Michael was much stronger. It was a Cat 5 upon landfall, right?
After it made landfall, they did that post-analysis and made it a Cat 5. Now, I'm going to zoom out the boxes. The names aren't going to move.
Right.
But just note that orange location, that orange line is where Michael originated.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Versus the gray, which is Helene. So very similar.
Very similar, and they're taking a very similar path off to the north. So similar steering currents this time of the year. This is what we look at. That area of high pressure that's kind of backing off right now. That is what we worry about in October here in Florida, because these storms recurve right into us, or we see what we're seeing, exactly the scenario that we're looking at right now. There's a cold front dropping south, the high pressure, and the battle of the two. And it really just depends on the minute differences in where this storm's going to come ashore.
It blows my mind that cruise ships can operate the way that they do this time of year.
Yeah.
These development zones are just always filled with cruise ships, and somehow they navigate around these forming storms or storms that have formed and are trekking in the direction of the United States or the Yucatan.
Yeah, they're expert level at driving around these systems. They're like the opposite of hurricane hunters.
Shout out the cruise ship captains and everybody out there that navigate our waters safely this time of year. It's pretty wild how science has come so far that allows them to be able to do that. Let's go to our YouTube audience. DMS Online says, #Hey Rebecca. I think this came in right after 11 a.m., so we're going back in the queue here for this one a little bit. But as of the 11 o'clock update, I think you noted this as well. that the 11 o'clock update dropped, and it looked like, was there a micro shift to the west?
Yeah, I called it an infinitesimal shift, but there was a
infinitesimal.
Yes, a very small shift to the west, but we'll take any shift to the west that we can. We really love that for us. Also, the track tightened up a little bit as you get closer to arrival time. The margin of error the track is actually a margin of error, and so the margin of error gets smaller, and so the track tightened up and shifted west a little bit, and that's part of what took all of the Tampa Bay counties out of that official cone, even though we always mention that the cone is for the center and the effects are well outside of the cone most of the time.
Do you have, hey, Amanda, do you have the ability to bring up the path for any storm? I don't know if you could do this on the fly or not. Is that possible?
It is.
Okay.
What are we looking at?
I'm giving you a homework assignment
right.
for let's see if we can adjust on the fly here. We're loosening up the hinges here a little bit on our storm coverage here, folks. Renee wants to comment at you. This reminds me so much of Hurricane Wilma, that either 2005 or 2006. Wilma was 2005. It was an October storm, and so Amanda, we'll give Amanda that homework assignment. We'll see if we can come back to her in just a little bit. Tony, I didn't forget about you. We're not going to leave you hanging. Citrus County is the comment here from Tony. What do we expect in Citrus County, Rebecca?
Citrus County will most likely get the worst of what we're going to see because of their proximity to that landfall location. Now, it's not, with the current track, it's not going to get anything like what we're seeing with the landfall location because it is so compact. But if you have a chance to see hurricane force winds, it would be northwestern Citrus County. The highest storm surge will be in Citrus County. I would get away from the coastline in Citrus County, and I would look at the roadways and how it's flooded in the past to make sure that the roadways are going to be passable. I know this from when we sent former reporter here, Jack Royer, up to Citrus County for one of the previous storms. We were able to get him to kind of a high and dry location, but then he was kind of stuck there until the water went down because a lot of the roadways in and out and around about Citrus County, especially closer to the coastline, became impassable because of water. And so the further inland that you get, and then taking a look at the elevation of the roadways that you may want to go and come from to get back and forth to wherever you need to go immediately after, and for maybe a day after the storm, you would want to stay a little bit further inland.
Yeah, and people have been asking us, like where should we go if we evacuate? As far as direction, I
have a girlfriend named
south.
Brooke that I aspire to be her when I retire from meteorology. She is the queen of booking a 4-day vacation when there's a hurricane. And so
the real hurricane party is going on vacation when there is a hurricane.
Yes. So I actually texted her like, hey, what you doing this weekend? And she's like, oh, we have booked a spa vacation in Fort Lauderdale. So she's going to Fort Lauderdale Beach. She's going to, lay on the beach in the nice breeze and sunshine and maybe get a massage later that day.
Wow.
So that's
It was at that point we knew.
Yes.
That's like next level preparation.
Yeah. She's like, I'm not here to live without power. I am not here to have 2 children without their electronics and Wi-Fi. We are going to Fort Lauderdale.
So if you are getting your hurricane kit ready, this past weekend, that's basically the equivalent of playing checkers. She's playing chess.
Oh yeah. And if you're just trying to get away from having a nasty day, Orlando's far enough.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Even Lakeland's technically far enough.
Will they close, on that note, will they close the theme parks?
It's possible.
Yeah. So it's not like a vacation to Disney World is really on tap or Universal or anything like that.
Well, there's the Brook plan, which is, Fort Lauderdale. But if you're just trying to not have to live without power for a day, book the Holiday Inn in Orlando, you'll be fine.
A spa massage sounds pretty good right about now. Carol Taylor's watching from West Virginia. Shout out. Will my place in Carrollwood be safe from this storm? Again, so many people will be joining us on stream from other states because they either have property in Florida or they have that aunt or uncle or grandma or grandpa.
All those beautiful trees in Carrollwood. That's what worries me.
Oh, I love the trees there.
And with our wind gusts getting in that 40, 50, 60 mile per hour range, I do worry about some down trees in Carrollwood.
Yeah, saturated ground, down trees.
Let's come back to Renee because I feel like Amanda has completed her homework assignment. Renee says, this reminds me so much of Hurricane Wilma, and it was 2005. Amanda, yes, no, maybe so.
little bit here, again, similar origin location. And it's taken that curve. Obviously, Wilma just kind of curved a little bit sooner. So certainly similar.
And Wilma was October. So this is the same thing you talked about with the steering currents.
High pressure, it backs off a little bit. So we see these storms curve into Florida a little bit more as opposed to going to Louisiana and over to Texas. So certainly similar, loosely similar, I would say, for sure.
I gotta check in some inside baseball here for a second. We had there's a 1:30 meeting, I know, for the station. Are you guys part of that?
I am.
Okay, so we'll probably have to dip out in the next 5 minutes or so, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then what are we expecting at 2 o'clock? Are we expecting any updates at 2?
So we're not going to get a track update.
Yeah, it's just position, right?
Okay.
So, the hurricane hunters are going to be in this storm from now, multiple planes between now up until landfall Thursday evening. So all the hurricane hunters, every time, they're collecting data continuously now to put into these models. And what we'll get at 2 o'clock is a position update. We'll get a maximum winds update and a pressure update there and a movement update, right? But we're not going to see any changes to that track.
Do you think the 12Z model runs got the center information in time?
I believe the next suite of tropical models will come in with the assimilated data from the hurricane hunters.
Okay. But we'll probably have to wait for the 0Z for the main GFS and the main Euro.
I would
maybe
the 18Z.
Okay. So
18Z should come in.
By tonight, we'll have a higher confidence.
Yes. Yeah. If we don't see any major shifts in the next 12 hours, even in the next 10 hours, I'm going to lead to more of a higher confidence in saying that, we're still looking at a Big Bend landfall.
Okay. I like that for us.
This is our look. We have a lot of streams ahead, folks. And our next big stream, we have a 5-minute rapid fire Q&A coming up here. We're going to get to as many of the questions in the queue and as many of the questions that you can fire in the comment section across Facebook Live and YouTube Live here for the next 5 minutes. But I want to let you know that our next big stream is going to be at 5 o'clock because that's the next track update that we get. And that's going to be significant. That's going to be the first track update that we get after the formation of this storm, after the NHC has officially named Tropical Storm Helene. So will we have movement to the west? Will we have a track shift to the east? That 5 o'clock update Eastern time will be significant, and we will be live on Facebook, YouTube, WFLA.com, trackingthetropics.tv with meteorologist Eric Stone to break down that track update again at 5 o'clock Eastern. Let's get to the final questions in the queue. You can type them in now using hashtag #HeyRebecca, Amanda, or JB, and we'll get them in over the next 5 minutes or so. Jonathan says, I've seen a lot of models go contradictory to the NHC's going on a more eastern track. Is this going to be another Idalia situation, but maybe a little more southern Big Bend landfall? I'd like to caution everybody, be careful what you see on social media. Not only are you going to see, certain posts be made to try and, pique your curiosity, but also at the same time, check the timestamp on some of those posts. You might be seeing a post from several days ago that shows a different track. And Jonathan, I'm sure you're a smart guy, not saying that you're looking at a post from several days ago, but from this point forward, the timestamp on a track is just as valuable as the track itself so that you know what you're looking at from the NHC or any other particular model. But are there models showing west-east jogs?
I didn't see any. The icon was the easternmost, and even it has shifted back west. So have you seen any shifting?
No, maybe they're talking about the ensembles is the only thing I can think of that, are a little bit more spread out than the concise tropical models. Could we see shifts? Yes, we could see those shifts, but I haven't seen any reliable tropical models in the last 12 hours.
Yeah, I did a deep dive at like 10:30 this morning before I came in, and I kind of looked at everything, and I was higher confidence than yesterday on that Big Bend. So.
Let's get to the next one. It's from Kevin. Hashtag, hey, Amanda, should I put up my storm shutters in Parrish, Florida?
Yeah, we've been talking about this. I'm not putting up my storm shutters at the moment. I think that I'm most concerned about coastal flooding in our area. Just like we've seen with the past few storms. And if we see a major shift back to the east and we see these forecast wind speeds increase anymore, maybe you should think about that. But we'll know more in the next 12 hours. But at the moment, I'm not putting up my storm shutters.
This is a really important one, and it comes in from Lorraine. Lorraine says, what about the Tallahassee area? Now, not only is Tallahassee very much in play and up there as potentially an impact area for a major Category 3, hurricane, but also you think of all the students up there at Florida State, right? So parents out there might be a little bit on edge.
Absolutely. And so I was talking to our producer, Naisha. You guys might know her from our Rooted in Progress show. She's made an appearance there. She has a family member there, and they're going to come down and spend the couple of days with her because Tallahassee is not a good place to be on Thursday into Friday.
No, I mean, right now I have the wind gust forecast model pulled up, and I know that the white kind of goes off the legend, but that is Category 3 strength wind gusts in that region, Tallahassee region, that apex of the Big Bend, Thursday night and into early Friday morning as this comes ashore. That's going to be probably one of the worst places at this point.
Yep.
Let's go to Kayla. We'll try to pick up the pace a little bit here. Kayla, hashtags for us all. Should Ruskin be worried about storm surge on the water?
Yep, especially once the eye passes us and those winds shift and become onshore.
Let's go to Chad. This is interesting. Why do the storms hit at night, not during the daylight? Are hurricanes, is the word vampiric? I don't know how to say it. Do we have vampire storms that only come out at night? Is there any truth to that?
I don't think so, but I think that there have been a couple of studies done that it just happens that way. I don't think there's any reason behind it, but it does seem like a lot of storms happen at night. I will say Ian, though, made landfall at 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
Yeah, right in the middle of the daylight.
Yeah. Every now and again, these two give me just a look like, really? JB, really? Of all the questions?
No, I think it's a valid question.
Amanda looked at me like I was like, crazy.
No, I do think that it's a valid comment because for a while there, every storm hit at night. But the past 2 years, I think we've had a couple of daytime storms.
Yeah.
Let's go to Polk County for Amy. More inland, obviously, but things are looking better and better for Polk County. But
yeah, I think it's just kind of a nasty day with passing rain bands in Polk County. I don't think you're going to see. I would bet you keep power unless there's a tornado or something like that. I would bet that Polk County keeps power.
Let's go to Wesley Cherry on Facebook Live. YouTube, I'm coming your way next. YouTube, we've taken a lot of Facebook questions. We're going to come to YouTube next. Hashtag, hey, Amanda, should Pinellas board up Largo specifically?
Yeah, I at the moment, no. I would be more concerned about storm surge and coastal flooding at this point, which I know not really right along the coast there. But if we see any shifts back to the east, then maybe you should think about that, early tomorrow morning.
You know that the YouTube questions are coming in because we get usernames like Daughter of a King on YouTube. The YouTube usernames are always an adventure. Hashtag KJB, would Ocala get a strong impact from this storm?
Nope.
No.
Nope. We're looking at tropical storm conditions there.
Yeah.
And the last one we're going to get to before we got to let our meteorologist go, everybody, because we have some important meetings that we got to get to as far as storm prep for ourselves. Bonnie says, hashtags, I live in Middle Georgia. How strong will the storm be when it gets to us in Georgia?
I think tropical storm force winds possible for Valdosta, areas like that.
Yeah, I think that one of the things not on your side in Georgia is the fact that it is moving so quickly. So it is going to hold a little bit more of that strength. So you could see stronger winds than otherwise. Strong tropical storm force, maybe low end Category 1 gusts.
Maybe, yeah.
In the Valdosta area.
Yeah, for sure. Along I-75.
Along I-75, yeah. That's usually that like turning point where you really start to see those winds kind of die down.
But it is moving fast. That's good.
It is.
So it's a very short duration of bad weather.
Very short duration.
I'm going to stay here live for another few minutes.
Okay.
Can you, as you guys depart, can you throw up Wobble Tracker for me? Because I'm just going to talk a little bit about that and explain why this tool is so important for us and is going to become even more and more important for us. A big round of applause for meteorologist Rebecca Barry and, of course, Amanda Holly. You'll see them tonight, of course, or no. Well, no. We're not going to see Amanda tonight. Amanda's been here since early in the morning.
Amanda needs to go home right now.
Amanda needs to sleep.
I got to go to a meeting. Amanda needs to go home.
Yep. And so Rebecca will be on air with Chief Meteorologist Jeff Baradelli tonight on WFLA, of course, your NBC station right here in Tampa Bay, Florida. And I'll be live here at 5 o'clock with Eric Stone. But before we depart here on the stream for now, Wobble Tracker. Okay, this is going to be a really important tool as this system organizes and gets closer to Florida. I want to explain the Wobble Tracker and a little bit of how it works so that everybody... Say that again?
It's not going to keep moving.
Okay.
The way the graphic's built.
Right, we'll have to... Yeah, I got you. So here's the thing with Wobble Tracker and why it is such a vital tool. It allows us to basically keep tabs on how the storm is performing in relation to the National Hurricane Center track. Wobbles off the track are significant because one wobble could be just a coincidence and a self-correction is possible. So if it wobbles to the east once, right, that could be something where, look, it could wobble back west and then it's a correction as we call it on stream. And sometimes we'll pay very close attention to the Wobble Tracker and almost do play-by-play with it because every time that we get an update with the Wobble Tracker, we'll notice whether or not it's wobbling in the same direction, every time that there's an update. And that when you have 2, 3, 4, even 5 wobbles in a row in one direction, that's more than a wobble. All of a sudden, we have an emerging trend. And we pay close attention to this with the Wobble Tracker so that we can pay attention to exactly whether or not we have wobbles versus trends. Debbie was significant. Debbie, we saw several wobbles occur consecutively that amounted to a hook with Debbie in real time. And that hook proved to be quite consequential for Florida. And while in the grand scheme of things, it might not seem consequential, but if you're in a certain section of Florida, if it's your neighborhood, it's your home, it's your town, and a wobble could be a significant difference between the eye wall hitting you or the eye wall missing you. So wobbles will get more and more important in the hours ahead. The Wobble Tracker itself is streaming on WFLA.com at all times from this point forward throughout the week so that we can monitor wobbles as the system gets closer to land. Wobbles right now are somewhat interesting, but it becomes more consequential really once the storm clears the Yucatan and actually starts heading in that north by northeast direction towards the peninsula. That's when wobbles really start to become a focus for us because we are going to hone in on whether or not it's wobbling east towards Florida, wobbling west more towards, let's say, the Alabama Gulf Coast. These trends are going to be really important in the days ahead. And so while our streams will be, built around the advisories at 11 o'clock, 5 o'clock, a.m., p.m. Eastern time, the Wobble Tracker will be streaming full-time on WFLA.com or on Tracking the Tropics TV, and it's an invaluable resource for us and for you to know, are we seeing a shift? Wobbles that add up equals a shift. So we'll be paying very, very close attention to it in the days ahead. All right, that's it for my lecture on the Wobble Tracker. You can find it right now on WFLA.com. But for people in our comment section saying, hey, JB, is this going to move to the west? Is this going to move to the east? If you want to pay attention to that, the Wobble Tracker will help you. And I want everyone to understand how the Wobble Tracker works because it can be a little bit difficult to understand what you're looking at. You find the eye of the storm, the actual satellite imagery, and you're looking at the eye. And if the center of the eye moves off the track, that's a wobble. Now, the system is still really organized, even though we have Tropical Storm Helene, and even though we have, of course, rotation now as it moves a little bit more, in our direction, it's still getting its act together. It's still organizing and gaining strength, gaining momentum. As that eye becomes more of a circle, then the Wobble Tracker is really easy to read because you'll see the center of the eye and you'll see the line in the middle. Basically, imagine a circle with a line through it. And if the line is right in the middle of that circle, right in the middle of the eye, then there's no wobble. It's right on the path. If it moves off of that line, then you have a wobble. So it's hard to see right now. It's really hard to determine if there is a wobble because we just don't have the super well-defined eye, the eye wall, the stadium or Coliseum effect, as they call it. But really, this time tomorrow, 24 hours from now, when we do have a more well-defined eye, the wobble tracker is something we're going to be almost doing play-by-play on here on Tracking the Tropics on upcoming streams. Let us know as we say farewell for this 12:30 edition of Tracking the Tropics. Let us know where you're watching from. I'll shout out before we say farewell. Just throw in the comment section if are you watching from Florida? If you're watching from Florida, where are you watching from? Some people are watching from other states because they have tremendous concern about their property or their family members down in the state of Florida, or perhaps in Georgia. If you're watching from another state, let us know. Some people are watching from other countries. Let us know exactly where you're watching from, and I'll try to give as many shout outs as possible. Michelle is watching from Venice, Florida. Teresa from Tallahassee. Kathy's joining us from West Palm Beach. Beverly from Melbourne. Edward from Vero Beach. Henry Jim is joining us from Canton, Ohio. Debbie from Tampa. Crescia Thompson from St. Pete. Tammy is watching from Wisconsin and says her son goes to the University of Tampa. Love it. Let's see. Tammy's watching us from Plant City. Let's see. Evelyn from Summerfield, Florida. Let's go to YouTube. Shout out some folks on YouTube. Oh my God, YouTube. Courtney from North Carolina. Andy from Tampa. Margaret from Naples. Pete from Gainesville. Jason from Arkansas. Belly from Tallahassee. Jungle Mike. Gotta love the YouTube names. Is joining us from Connecticut, I believe. Was that it? Yeah, Jungle Mike is joining us from Connecticut. Bumblebee from Oregon. Or is that Bumblebee? Yeah. News Nook is joining us from England. We have a lot of UK viewers usually on the WFLA YouTube page. So here's the plan, folks. We take a little bit of a break here at WFLA. Our weather team, opportunity to do the things that are necessary in between shows, which is, eat, drink, give the vocal cords a rest. We are back at 5 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Eastern on Tracking the Tropics, at which time we will, of course, resume our live streaming with meteorologist Eric Stone. We'll be back answering your questions. But the big thing to remember about the 5 o'clock update is that we get a new track. All the questions that we're getting. Is this going to move to the west? Is it going to go more to the east, closer to Tampa Bay? We'll get clarity on that with our first initial model runs since the formation of Helene. Those first initial model runs will be coming out at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central, and we will be live for it here. Facebook Live, YouTube Live, WFLA.com, trackingthetropics.tv. And again, those are significant because now that we have the name storm, now that we have rotation, now that we have an organized system, the model runs will be able to have a better, be able to do a better job as far as pinpointing, where exactly the system is heading. Given that we have tremendous model consensus already, we anticipate more of the same. But westward shift, eastward shift will be coming into focus, I'm sure, more at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central. Throw a thumbs up in the comment section if you'll be seeing us. You'll be joining us back at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central. Facebook Live, YouTube Live, WFLA.com, trackingthetropics.tv. We look forward to seeing you then here, everybody, on Tracking the Tropics on WFLA.com. For Amanda and Rebecca and Alex, I'm JB. We'll see you in a few hours, folks. Stay safe.